Oh boy. Jesus Christ. Okay. Let's see what we can figure out today. Oh boy. I'm gonna... Or head... Oh. Oh, Brainoid. Yeah, it's because there's an open window. It does that. Oh. I'm forcing the stream on, like, every time to get myself to be able to do something. It's pretty rough right now. Let's go. Did I finish setting up all the intros? Oh, the animation speed needs to be 1. Oh, fuck. I know how it is. Yeah. I'm only working 3 days a week now, and I'm not even like working full days. And that's like my limit. It's beyond my limit, in fact. It's, yeah. Yeah. Alright. Or what am I doing? Right, so we have these animations now. Effect data list. Effect animation. What does an effect data contain? Sprite, decals, entity data. And an entity data contains anim data. With a string, it's a string anim data. I don't think that works. Anyway, let's look at the barrier here. So here we have the barrier animation. Right? All right, so what if we do something like this, and then we say we just raw dog is here. What are they called? Barrier end flash intro. Flash. Outro. No end. Do it like that. Do I even need to do this? Does it need to be like that? We have a list of effect animations here, right? It doesn't actually need to be like that, but it can be. Because right now I'm just putting everything in a list here, and that's fine. It can be that way. It's just I could just make variables for each animation and just actually name them what they are, instead of having it this way, where it's a little less readable. Because there's no reason for me to have this list, I think. Now let's ditch that idea, which means we go here and we delete the effect animation entirely from the base object. And then we go back here, and now they're angry. So what we're gonna say then is in the barrier, we're gonna say public. It doesn't need to be public, but whatever. I just make everything public. Public LOT animation. Effect anim. Barrier loop anim. LOT animation, barrier, flash anim, animation, barrier, intro anim, public, LOT animation, barrier, end anim. And then I want some booleans, like public, bool, hello, Cao Cao. How's it going? Do I need a boolean? I don't know. Not so sure. I think we'll just make an int animation stage. Animation stage equals 0. And then here we're gonna say barrier intro anim equals that. Barrier loop anim barrier flash anim. Is it C++? No, it's C#. Barrier end anim. Queue times take forever at this hour in ESO. That's surprising, to be honest. It's in the middle of the fucking... well, very early in the morning. Let me remove the final parentheses there. Right, and current animation as we enable this. If the initial animation should be set to now, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to make an animation system that... or I have the animation system already, but it's rather... I'm trying to create a system to spawn and generate effects, visual effects, and have it be more self-contained, and it just handles itself more or less. But it still needs to be able to interact with the rest of the game. Like, here we have a barrier spell that's... you put it on a character and it's persistent. And then when he takes damage, it needs to react. The animation needs to react to that. So now what we need to do is we need to figure out how to implement this in a way where the effect controller can handle all of this. So first, the first animation should be barrier intro anim. And here we are just doing play animation. But this is where we need to control it more. So this effect object says play animation. But the object itself, it just plays the animation. That's all it does here. It doesn't have any code to change its animation or anything like that. So I think we need a boolean here that says public bool damage taken. And we set damage taken equals false. And then I do want to write some methods for this. I think we should be able to load things more into objects more. I don't like having to manually time things. So I think it should be more like here in effect object. It has an effect data, right? It has an effect source. Where's current animation coming from? Here, it's an object here. Right. I'm just thinking. Because an effect, right? What will an effect consist of? Like, let's say we're spawning a more complicated effect that spawns a bunch of different things. Like maybe if we go with the lightning storm example again, like if we spawn a lightning storm somewhere, that lightning storm might spawn multiple like lightning strikes in different locations, right? And how that would work is that the effect itself, which is like a controller for the effect, will generate effect objects in set locations. And then those effect objects will play the animation and take on the sprite, etc. Right? So what parts would effects, like the animations of an effect, what parts would they consist of? Because a player's sprite is a lot more, or a player is a lot more complicated. A player can walk in 4 different directions, run in 4 different directions. You know, they have all of these things. So when I'm making like an animation container for a player, that contains all kinds of shit, right? Like it's very complicated. But an effect would pretty much only consist of an intro, a loop, and an outro. And anything else would be an outlier, like a barrier having a reaction to something, right? That would be an outlier. I want to move away from scriptable objects again, dude. Scriptable objects kind of blow. I don't like them at all. But you could make a scriptable object that inherits from something else. Okay, so like what I don't like, the pattern I don't like working with is when you make a one-size-fits-all solution. I don't like that at all. I would rather that I can make like an LOT effect. That's what I call things LOT effect, whatever. So if I make an LOT effect, right, and let's say that's the parent object or the parent class, I then want to store all the objects in like the same list, or be able to, like they should all be compatible with the same like be able to put in the same lines as each other or in the same lists. But they should each be able to be completely custom. So when you play them, it literally just goes into like a public void trigger, and then it handles its own function, rather than the code just looking for like walk animation or whatever, right? And I think behaviors in general would be better off that way too. Like instead of a character having like code built in that does that, I would rather that there's like an aspect of it that is behavior that's a completely different class. So you can have like a RIA behavior, AYA behavior, and then you have a player behavior, right? Which is just player controlled. And you have to attach the player behavior to an object for it to be controllable with the keyboard. But they're all the same. Like the AI behavior and the controller behavior is all the same thing that you just plug into something, and then when the code run, it just does that thing dot trigger, and then it just runs whatever code is in there in the override. I'm kind of doing that, but not exactly for the player controls. I think they're just kind of separate. Each object can be player controlled. It's just like methods, which is also okay, I guess. And I think I should remake. my animation containers. It would suck big time, but I have to do it. I can't keep doing it the way I am. It's gonna be so ass later. It's gonna come back and bite me in the ass. Hardcore. Because the way I'm doing things right now is the animations are stored. Like, I made my own animation system, and the animations are stored in scriptable objects like this. But we're gonna move away from Unity later. I don't like working with Unity. I don't like the company. I don't like our product being based on it. So because these are scriptable objects, which is a Unity thing, to some degree, they're not like super Unity, you know, but they do, you know, if you open them. This is very easy to make yourself, but the way they're constructed, you know, you see here, you have the actual things here, but as it links to files, it uses like IDs and shit. So you can't just translate this. And because of that, I would like this to just be a database, I think. Just like I'm doing things here. Like, this is the entity data for objects here. Right? We've got unit data. We've got effect data. I was doing that. In the same way, I would like this to just contain the animations. And they're just written. I don't know if it's a good idea to have it all in like one class, but I don't know, like, what is the best way of doing it? Should I really be like, when I'm generating a database like this, should the entire database just be like generated like this? I feel like either way, like, just like, let's say I do it this way. I just have the effects and stuff in here, And here I'm pointing them towards like where the animation is. Is it gonna suck? Like, let's say the entire game is done and I have like all of these, all the animations, all of it just in the database like this in code. It's gonna have to generate the entire database on launch. And then that's just gonna be in memory the whole time. Always. Which, I mean, is probably fine. But is that the way to do it? Because at the same time, if we do this using files instead, that's still gonna have to be tracked and parsed and loaded. I'm not sure what the correct choice is here. But for now, I think maybe we'll rework how animations work a little bit. Why does this contain data? Alright, so how are we gonna handle this? This is an animation. But... and that's fine. Like, just an animation sequence. Being just that, I think, is fine. And I honestly don't know why I have an animation speed modifier here. I think it would never be used. I think the container that has the animation attached to it might have an animation speed modifier there, in case you have like some kind of haste spell or something like that, or it needs to be slowed down for whatever reason. Maybe there's like slow motion happening at some point or whatever. And this is going to be a lot of wasted work, unfortunately, but I think this is the right thing to do. But so what should I call it? I need something that's like a container and controller for animations. So what should that be? Looks happy to Rouse Hour. When I was doing those, I just used flag and catch. Flag one, catch one. Wait, when you were doing what? Flag the animation as flag one. Catch the action as catch one. Right. Yeah, I'm trying to... handle animations differently here. I want to make just a container that can do the animations. Should it just be like animation controller? That's what Unity calls it. And it would be an extremely simple class, I think. Could be wrong. Let's see, scripts. animations, LOT animation controller. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna do about this much. And it's gonna say, well, we do need a public LOT animation controller. And then we need a public virtual void run, I guess. Or should we call it update? Animation update. I think it's good. And I think that's about it. Is that really the way I want to do it? Yeah, when it comes to like handling databases and stuff like this, I'm not really that knowledgeable of best practices, so I'm a little bit unsure here. So let's make another one called animation controllers. I think I should call that like database or something, but we can change that later. And then we make a static class. And in here we make a public static list. No, it's a dictionary. Int LOT animation equals new dictionary. How did I type it wrong? No, that's not it. This is how it should be. It should be public class. Let's say barrier LOT animation controller. That's the idea. It's cool. I'm not a pro. Just had a brief background with those two. I keep having hash notes on my codes because I oversimplify the naming schemes. Yeah. I try to make names that make sense, but often they start like encroaching on each other, so. And then you do something like this, right? And then in here, you just write the animation completely custom on its own. And you just say like what should the animation be here? It needs an animation called barrier intro, or let's just call it intro public LOT animation. Okay, let's call them something like this, otherwise it gets confusing. Flash anim, end anim. And then you have a public override void animation update. And this is just where you handle the animation. And it's that simple, right? All you're doing is making sure that you have an animation controller base class. It might contain some things here that might be in common, like time, for example. Public float, current time. And then you just handle each animation through this, and each animation handles its own logic on its own. So what you would need, what you do need is, you have the base constructor there. I think you need the base constructor, but I would like to have this. No, that's not needed. Well, what is it should have access to? I want it to be able to have access to its source. I guess maybe I'll have to make... Not sure. Because either I make the object itself, like, communicate with the effect, or I make the effect read the object. So I guess I could just make a couple of overloads. Like, what if I just make, like, now we just have two different constructors. If we then go back here, and when I make this constructor, public barrier, that's gonna have LOT object, object target, base, object target. There. So the barrier's constructor takes a target, and that means that the barrier can refer back to its source, and then I can be like, if object target dot damage taken, then current animation equals flash anim. Something like that. So I go and I make a boolean on objects, or so basically, like, I run the logic on the characters and like the entities in the world, and then if that frame it takes damage, it gets flagged as damage taken. And then when we get to the animations, it will read its target object and see, has my target taken damage? Yes, no. If it has, then it needs to play the animation that does the flash. And then it plays that, and then it returns to the loop. And then on the next frame, the entity that took damage just resets its flag to not damage taken, right? So that the animation just kind of sits there as an observer and just looks at the state of the target, and then reacts to that, instead of it being that we directly tell it to do things. Because if we start directly telling it to do things, then I feel it becomes too interwoven, kind of. And if I do it more like this, I feel like I can more consistently keep the animation system more separated. But I feel like every time I've tried doing stuff like this, it works in the beginning, and then I come to like edge case, edge case, edge case, edge case, where I just have to do it like some other way. But I think this is the way to go. But I'll be right back. There. And so the way this would work here is that I have to, and this is where this kind of blows, because this is then about paths, and paths are kind of annoying. I wonder if I could handle it somewhere else. Well, no, it wouldn't be about paths. Would it? No, we would just... No, it would be. But it wouldn't matter. Alright, fuck it. Don't overthink. So here in the constructor, we would now have to do intro anim equals new LOT animation. The animation doesn't take a constructor. All right, fuck it. Fuck it. Let's also get rid of animation speed, fuck that. So here, we're gonna need a list of sprites. Frame sprite list, or let's call it, I don't know why it's called frame sprite, it's called sprite frame list. There. Well, we can make it an array. Why not? Frame duration. Sprite frames. Frame durations. Full loop. Full allow. Mirror. This dot frames. Now this is a little bit tricky. Because even if I pass in an array here, it won't be copied, I think, because this is a sprite, this is a class. So a class array won't get copied, it's just going to become referenced, which kind of blows. So here we do equals new sprite frames or something like that. Can you do that? Now, how do you do that with... That's how you do it with a list. How do you do it with an array? C# new array from array. Oh, it's right frames to array. That being, I like using link for this. That being said, array.copy does have better performance if this will be used in a tight loop. Okay, but if it has better performance, why would you do one over the other? The reason for array copy being so fast is that it doesn't allocate any memory. However, if you require your arrays to be copied to a new region of memory each time, then array.copy is no longer the fastest method. Yeah, okay, I don't know. I don't know, dude. I don't know. Let's just go with array. At least I think this is the case. Because what can happen is that if I initialize this with nah, it'll be fine. Because we'll create the array in the constructor itself. So that way it'll be fine. But otherwise, like if you have the array or list somewhere else and you assign it to another array somewhere else without like copying, that just becomes a reference. And then when you clear the previous array, you clear that array as well. And it just becomes a really weird mess. But here, it will be fine here. This. Like that. And then here, we're going to make a new intro animation. And that's gonna be new sprite array. Fuck. This is still gonna be dependent on Unity shit. But for now, okay, I guess. Because we are dependent on Unity sprite handling. A lot of errors. How do you do that? See, this is where things are weird. So, okay. How do I use the first thing there? Unity, how to load right frame. Hmm. Okay, so apparently we need to do something like load all. As sprite. Okay, I think what's happening is it needs to be like this. Right, so load all returns a sprite array. So it's gonna load every sprite. So that's the easy way to do it here then. However, what I will say is that if we're gonna convert it entirely to this, I think it might be easier or better to create a struct here. Maybe not. But this is kind of what I did before. I made a struct called animation frame, which is basically just the sprite and the int together. But it doesn't really matter that much. And then here we would need a new int. How many ones is in the barrier? 8. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No loop, no mirror. There, so this is now, we've now loaded the intro animation. This is how it's gonna be. And then loop anim equals barrier loop, maybe? No, it's just called barrier sheet. And the barrier sheet has 7 entries. This one is loopable. Flash anim. Barrier flash. See, it's not that much more work to do it this way, but it is more work. But this is how it would be done in monogame. More or less. It does also have a database system with similar functionality to this. So we'll see. I'm not exactly sure what the best way to handle it is. And this is what I mean, right? So now when I generate a barrier, we have to fetch the barrier animation, and then on demand it's gonna load the assets. Well, I guess that's the way to go. I guess that's the way to go. Yeah. Now, I don't actually like doing things like this in the constructor, so let's add another thing to the animation controller, and we're gonna say public virtual void init. And then this should all be in public void override void init. And then this should just call init, because this should actually also have a public barrier like that, where it also just says init. Because you might want to spawn a barrier in a scenario that is outside of combat, or, you know, whatever, like in a cutscene or whatever. I want all effects to be playable just like that. Like you should just be able to spawn them and then they work without a target. It should just be doable. And then if it has a target, then sure, you know, it can interact with it. But this should be object script. All right. So let's add public bool damage taken. That's now a boolean that exists in the base object and not in a combat object. And the reason I'm putting it in the base object is just to make this easier, first and foremost, but also it might be good to do, or good to have, in a cutscene. But I don't know if I want it to be handled that way anyway. That's the thing. Because the reason I don't really like that is because it's more roundabout. While it would be, I feel like it would make more sense to just be like, if we're in a cutscene, you would just say, you know, Ria, play hurt animation for X seconds, and that's it. And it's not like flagging her as damage taken for X seconds. Has the same end result, but I feel like this is more roundabout, and I'm not a huge fan of that. But at the same time, how do you tell her to play the animation for X amounts of seconds? You know? You would have to tell her update to do that somehow. And that would also be the way to do that. Oh, why is it so hard to do things? Why do I have to think so much? My brain, not good. But the question is then, Thing like that. And then an object. Have a public entity. No. Same thing, animation speed modifier. Animation speed modifier. I had a multiplier already. Let's replace that. Wait, am I stupid? Why was that giving an error? And this is so that, for example, if you pop open a pause menu or something like that, you can just set animation speed modifier to 0, and then every animation will freeze. And you can do the same thing with like logic. You can freeze both logic and animations, but that means that you, like every single iterator that does something like this to progress logic or animations or whatever, it needs to be multiplied by that so that you can just set it to 0 so nothing progresses. And that's a way to pause. Another way to pause is to just wrap your code with, you know, if not paused. That works too. That's a cat. Oh shit, I'm losing track of what the hell I'm doing. So the question here is, should the animation logic run inside of the controller? I think yes. And in that case, then the animation code inside of an object, there's play animation here. We need to rip this out in that case. So that an effect object doesn't actually run its own animation. We are running the animation inside of the effect controller. The controller then sets the frames properly of the objects and handles those. So the object itself doesn't actually do anything except just sit there and get its sprites changed. That's it. I kind of feel like my base object has too much shit in it. But it does need a lot of things. Yeah. I think I prefer this. I think it might be break time. Losing focus big time. So what do we need to do? I honestly am not sure. We need to move the entire play animation script out here. Somehow. I think. It could just play the animation on the objects too. Yes. Anyway, I'm gonna go for a walk. I'll be back in a bit. See you soon. Where is it? There. Oosh. Didn't send any photos. She was supposed to look for monitors at the secondhand store, but she hasn't sent anything. So where were we? From somewhere. There we go. So. Please. I need a new target. Come on. Come on. Raidricks are at the bottom. Sorting by level doesn't help at all, dude. I don't know, maybe I could farm Raidricks. Nah, I would need gear for that. Laser. All of these mobs are insane, bro. This is something. Yeah, we could go to Glass Time Sewers. Nah. Path 3 uses spells. These have insane defense. Too much flee. These might be doable. It's just that they are aggro. 25% great nature. That's pretty big. I think this might be it. Anubis map kind of sucks. Mummy, this is super doable, unless they've changed it. Inside pyramid B1. They're decent money. Maybe I should go do this. They can teleport? What the fuck? This is pretty bad though. All right. Maybe. Oh no, I need a water Damascus for that. Don't have that. Whew. All right. Can we give it a try? Let's see. Here's where it becomes complicated, right? So if I only do .play animation on the effect object, then I have to make the effect object more complex, because it needs to be able to take like more animations. And I think I don't want to do that. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna, well, we can still do play animation, right? But if object.damage taken, current animation, that should be effect object dot current animation, should now be flash anim, and effect object dot time should be 0. Now, the question with that as well, though, is play animation here is doing animation current time plus equals delta time. And the issue with that is that it's going to skip the first frame sometimes. Potentially. So this might be something that should be done in here. So we handle that there. Maybe. I'm not sure what the right way to do it is, really. I think maybe adding the delta time at the end. But no, that's not it either. It's one of those scenarios that I don't like them. They're super annoying when you have to do something in the update. Except for on the first update. I hate that. Basically what you gotta do. And then you need to reset the first update. Because if you change to a new animation, that animation needs to play frame 0 first. And then it can progress from there, right? Like, that's just how it has to be. Very surprised that the microphone isn't picking up the tractor that's scraping the asphalt outside, and I have the window open. But yeah, I guess we just move play animation over here. Anything else we need there? Yeah, so I don't really know what to do here. So, okay. The way it works right now is that I create an animation by listing a bunch of frames in order. And that or it might be in any order, because like it might be repeated frames, it might be like 0 1 2 2 1 0, like that. And that's fine. But then they all have a duration, and when I'm playing the animation, what's happening is that every update we are setting anim index checker to 0, and then we go through the current animation's frames by like adding the frames to the checker or their duration until we reach a value where the current time is less than the checker. And And then we use that to set the animation. And it's this it's this incessant looping that I really don't like. So I'm thinking of changing that. And I'm thinking of maybe using a queue. But I do think that we should have a struct for each frame should have a struct so that the information is stored together. And what I think should happen is that we should have each frame, and we should have each frame's duration. And then on creation, the times get added together, and then the list of structs gets initialized so that they also have a thing that says like this is the frame that I start playing. So it's like start frame 7, start frame 9, start frame 10. That way, if I just have them in a queue, I can just peek on the next thing in the queue, and I can just check, are we at the start frame yet? If we are at the start frame, then we go. We change it to that animation. Right? Or change it to that frame. And then what you can do is that if it's a loop, you dequeue into the queue. So it gets requeued. And if it's not a loop, then you just dequeue. And when the queue is empty, that's when you know that the animation's gonna end. Maybe. So I don't need the queue to do that. We can just... We'll still have like a duration, right? Frame length, or animation length. I don't know if a queue is necessary though, but it works. It would work. But so would a list, so would a whatever, like...
All right.
What should I call it?
I don't know what to call it. Time of frame, start time. Like that. want to change the order. How do we write this? If I is greater than 0, then frames I dot start time plus frame durations I minus 1 start time plus frames I minus 1 dot duration. Else 0. Something like that. And then we go back in here. And this is still fine. We're still just popping it in like that. It's a switch instead. What? You can't do that? I can do this with an if, but not with a switch. Why do I ever try using things? Like, the only reason I use switches is because every now and then some guy comes in and he's like, why don't you use a switch instead of like 3 if statements? And I'm like, sure, whatever, I'll use a fucking switch. It's just, like, what? Am I doing it wrong? No, it can't do that. Constant value of type animation. Yeah, what the fuck do you think it is, bitch? It's an animation. Alright. All right. So we are updating the time. That's pretty much what we need. Do I want to do? No, what we'll do is... Oh. All right. And how should this work? Should it be called play animation? And how should it be handled? Something like that. Holy shit. We are reaching the end, I can promise you that. But my brain is not. Not managing. See, here I'm making an object comparison, but I could have like an old index, current index thing going, where I check if current index does not equal old index, then I perfect. Maybe something like that. I'm not sure. As sad as I am to say it, I think that's it for today. I want to keep going, but I can't. That's it. I can't figure out where to go from here right now. I'm out of brain juice for today. Yeah. It is what it is. Until next time, thanks for hanging. I'll see you around. Bye.